Good morning and welcome to this weekly market update from MRC Markets. Today is the 20th of March 2013. What we'll do today is go through some technical analysis on Euro dollar, cable, dollar Swiss, dollar CAD, Aussie and maybe a guppy as well. Just have a look at the markets really. Basically just go through the setups that I've been looking at, posting on the feed and the blog. Just sort of review price action, see what sort of setups you could be looking at. Hopefully I'll be of some use for this week. Okay, let's have a look at the Euro dollar chart. This is the weekly. Track some key points in this weekly chart here. Basically we're pressing this 55-week moving average here. That stands at around 1.2907. Also we have this 50 back here, so I'm just going to delete these other fibs as well. I'll just keep it on the 50% and the 61.8. Just makes it a bit easier to look at. We basically look at this sort of 50% of 61.8 zone as a sort of decent, healthy retracement zone. It's my personal sort of favourite retracement zone as well. It's quite a popular sort of trade. A lot of people trade off the 50% with stops buying at 61.8. You can keep it nice and tight that way. What we've got in this Euro dollar weekly chart. We've been speaking for quite a while now about how it's been due a decent retrace, and if it does come down, then keep an eye on this fib and what happens at this 50% zone. You can now see that we've pressed into this level here, and we are starting to reverse a little bit. Where it's definitely reacting to this level. So the weekly candle close would be really interesting, to be honest with you. That's all I'm really focused on mainly on this weekly chart. Let's have a look at the shorter term time frame. So this is the daily, the same fib setup. We have the 200-day moving average up here as well. But also, so I'm just going to zoom in quickly. We had this big gap here on the Sunday night. And that still hasn't filled. We had from the short-term fib players. I think we posted this on the Twitter feed as well. This fib here from a highs to the lows. Bam, we came in at 50 back, and then we came back down, and we broke below the 0% line, and also this big 50% line as well. But we've also come back up. The buyers have come in, and it looks like that gap is still in play. So it's quite choppy at the minute. We are in this sort of chop zone really. So it's hard to tell in terms of long-term direction. It'll be a lot clearer after next week, in my view, because we'll see that weekly candle close. Will it be a reversal or not? We also posted this fib as well. This is why the 50% zones are so good. So if you move the low there and then move the high to there as well, so that recent swing high to low. And if you zoom in, I posted this on the feed. The sellers have already started coming at this 50% zone, but you can now see. There's quite a lot of volatility out there. There might be some moves out there. There's some news out now. So that was an interesting selling zone. Some people already came in, but you can already see this current 1 hour candle is starting to make it pop higher. It's getting quite a volley really. That's basically the Euro chart. You can still see. Sorry, we'll just flip to the 4 hour. We're still in this downtrend here, so a lot of people are selling these dips. I think I've spoken in the last week's video. If you draw fibs from highs to lows, loads of the time you're getting sell-offs at the 50% level. They've been working out very nicely. There's a classic example. There's one. If you draw a high to there, bam, coming at the 50 back, sells off. If you look at the previous dip there, sellers coming in at that 50% as well. So you can see why I personally look at the 50%. You can see how they work so well. But no, really interesting week, especially on this Euro. The weekly candle close will be really interesting. It's all about if it's big. The key line in the sand, I posted on Twitter, is this one spot 28.76 is really. We're currently above this level, but we did get a daily candlestick close below, which would indicate that we will want to come down to 61.8, but it could be a little bit of a fake out of a daily candle there. The weekly candle will be the one to watch in my opinion. Let's have a look at the cable chart. The weekly, not massively of interest. We've been saying on the daily, it's been due a retracement. We said that last week. It's been due a decent, healthy retracement. We do have the UK budget out today. That'll be one definitely to look out for. I think that's coming out quite soon, actually. So it could get very volatile there. Price could come up maybe and start to head towards this 50% level and this 55-day moving average. But also, if you flip it to the shorter term time frame, let's look at the 1 hour. We had, I think, the end of last week, the start of this week. It would have been end of last week actually. We had this little fib here on the 1 hour, flow from lows to highs, bang, straight to 50%, rotates higher, and then if you extend that fib there to there, so from that dip where you would have bought off, bam, today we've had already pressed in at that 50% level. We're starting to rotate higher. We had some UK news out earlier about the MPC, a bit more hawkish than expected, and we've got that rotation towards the upside there. So they're the two sort of setups I've been looking at in terms of cable. I mean, the 4 hour chart it's pretty much the same as the 1 hour chart, really, in terms of those two fibs. Well, you've also got this 100 bar moving average here on this 4 hour chart, which is slicing. I mean, it has been very choppy the last sort of the last few days, really, the last sort of 4 or 5 days. If you look at that 1 hour, it's been chopping inside that range. We've got a breakout to the downside, bounce about 50%, we rotated higher, but that's what I'm really focused on that cable chart, to be honest with you. Let's have a look at the dollar Swissy weekly chart. Let's briefly look at this. We got above this 55-week moving average. We spoke about multiple weeks how it's just chopping in between a 100-week moving average and 55-week moving average. We finally got a close above that. It looks like it wants to rotate higher towards that 200-week moving average. So let's look at the daily. In fact, let's look at the 4 hour and look at trying to think what I've posted on Twitter. I mean, we've had this uptrend, which has been holding. Well, it kind of that uptrend there technically broke, but then you can extend that out towards here, and you can technically say that we're still in an uptrend. If we flip it to the 1 hour, you could draw a fib from that bounce off the trend line, highs to that initial low there. We've got a nice rotation off the 50% retracement towards the upside, and now what you can do is extend that fib to there and see what happens. It looks like it wants to come down and test this 50% level. I'd personally keep an eye on that, see how that reacts. That's at 0.9434. Also, I think if you draw your fib the other way around, so from that the high to the low, surprise surprise, we're bouncing off of the 50% retracement. Could have had stops behind 61.8, still would have been safe. And we also, it looks like it wants to come down. So you have two sort of fibs there, one from the highs and this one here from the lows. Both are technically still in play. So big sort of bull bear zone there. The bull's trying to defeat the bears, and the bears trying to defeat the bulls. It's very tight. I wonder which one will come out on top. Let's have a look at the dollar CAD. Dollar CAD's been a very interesting chart, especially on this 4 hour. If you zoom in there, or maybe let's look at the 1 hour and zoom out. Now let's look at the 4 hour. So if you look at this 4 hour chart, we had a decent sort of trendline resistance here, and that's now been broken. So you could say that the bias is towards the upside. We had this fib here with the gap fill as well, came back down, filled the gap, rotated off this 50%. You can see that all those sort of candlestick wicks broke below that 50%. We've rotated higher. You can now see if you extend that fib there and then draw it from that recent dip where you would have bought off, we're now testing this 50% level. So that's quite a smaller sort of fib play, but I mean, it's a great example of how you can buy dips. Also, we have the fib in the other area, in the other direction, sorry. So I suppose you could draw it from there, or you could draw it from that high there to the left, from the high to the sort of low on the 4 hour chart. Let's delete this trend line so you can see a bit clearer. a lot of sellers are starting to come in at a 61.8 level. It start to rotate towards the downside. So the bigger, I mean, I personally say that the bigger fib is normally the stronger one, because it also, I mean, well, on bigger time frames, are always more stronger in my opinion. As you can see, that fib setup is technically still in play. The sellers want to come down and bring it down towards the one spot 183 level. Yeah, they want to see it press that level. But yeah, in terms of dollar CAD, I mean, because we spoke about on Twitter last week, we haven't really looked at dollar CAD, but we had some people post on the YouTube feed to say, can we have a look at dollar CAD? So I had a look at it today. Hope you found that that chart useful. We will keep and have a look at that chart because it is an interesting pair, and it's quite. I mean, to the cable, the euro dollar can be quite similar, so it's nice to look at a different currency. So it can. Because it generally just moves different. I mean, that dollar CAD chart, if you look at the daily, is completely different to the euro dollar or the cable chart. Also, just the media, as soon as I switched it to that daily, you can just see there, perfect example of a fib. Just draw from the lows to the highs there, bam, off the 50%, and also that 100-day moving average and 200-day moving average as well. We really rotated higher, so that's why, I mean, you can notice on top I've been looking at fibs recently. I think they're very good to look at for newer traders as well, because it's a good way to visualize the market if you're struggling to pick a view of the market. It can be a useful way of determining what way the trend is going, and it provides us good sort of entry and a stop as well. Let's quickly have a look at the Australian dollar currency against the United States dollar. The daily chart isn't massive of interest to me. Actually, no, we do have an interesting fib on this Aussie dollar daily. I've just zoomed in there on the daily chart. First thing I draw is a fib from the highs to the lows. Bam, straight off the 61.8. We're getting some sellers coming in at that level, but it's getting quite choppy because you can see those three moving averages there really making price action choppy there. Real sort of bull bear fight there. So I mean, ideally the bias you would have to say on that daily would be towards the downside, but if you look at shorter time frames, it will most probably disagree. If you look at the 4 hour, 4 hours is a really interesting chart. I think I posted this up on Twitter about how it lights to 50%. If you go from the start here, you would have had that fib from the lows to the highs there. That dip got bought and it's rotated higher. And if you look from that fib up there, I think that this one to this one here, let's quickly look at that, would have been off the 38.2, which is a perfectly good level. But this one here, this is the recent one, which is still technically in play. From that dip low there to the highs, we have rotation coming in at the 50%. A lot of buyers coming in there, but it is getting quite choppy. Also making lower highs as well, so the sellers are trying to bring that down. So that's quite an interesting setup there. Be interesting to see how that breaks out. It does look like it's making a flag. I wouldn't be surprised to see that break higher, but at the end of the day, it can do what it wants. It could easily come back down to this 50% and then and make a triple bottom or something like that. So and also I suppose you've got this trend line support as well, so maybe it wants to come down and test off that. So now, interesting chart, that Aussie dollar. Let's have a quick look at the last one here. We'll have a look at the guppy, GBP, JPY. I'm just trying to focus it really on, well, let's have a quick look at this daily. There's one setup that immediately catches the attention. I know it's not off a 50 back. That fib is off a 100-day moving average. You can see we had a key test there and we rotated towards the upside. So you'd have to say that we are in an uptrend, in my opinion, on that daily chart. Let's have a look at the 4 hour, zoom in a bit. Immediate thing I draw on would be this trendline support, and you can bring it in a little bit if you like. Let's just keep it there for now. What we do have here is that recent dip there, lows to highs, bam, off the 50%, rotating towards the upside. Also, if we zoom in, actually let's keep on the 4 hour and just zoom a little bit on this 4 hour. Also, you will have fib players playing from that highs to the lows there and selling at the 50%. with stops just above highs. So, but I mean, I personally say that the bigger fib would be towards the upside, and as we said on the daily, clear uptrend, flip it to the 4 hour, also an uptrend. So in my opinion, the smarter way to trade would be to just buy dips and look for buying opportunities, in my opinion. That's a classic one there. Well, it does look quite head and shoulder, sort of head and shoulders action with the left shoulder, then the head, then the right shoulder. But looks like that setup could be invalid, especially if we break those highs. But no, it's just a classic example. I thought today I'd focus on looking at fibs, because I do post quite a lot on Twitter. We do have a lot of people asking if you could explain a little bit more in detail. So a classic example of how you can just buy, leave stops near the 61.8. There's one example where you can draw a 78.6 and perhaps put your stop there. But they really do move the market, and I think I've kind of explained in this video how well they sort of work. Okay, that's all for today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to comment on the Twitter feed and the YouTube blog as well. If there's any other pairs you want to have a look at, or any other sort of strategies, or any other technical analysis you'd like to look at, we can have a look at next week for you. But yeah, have a great week trading. I think we have FOMC out today, so keep an eye out on that. That could get quite volatile. But yeah, have a great week trading, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening.